Thank you for attending my talk today. I know there's many options at this retreat, and actually one of the options I would like to go to is the permaculture, because I'm into growing my own food. But I'm here today because traveling is one of my biggest passions aside from health and raw foods. So that's probably my second largest passion, and that's probably one of the reasons why I travel to all these different events to speak and everything. I love to just visit new places and meet new people and see how the other half of the world lives. So one of the common problems I see with people that are trying to be raw is staying raw while they're traveling. Now, when I got into raw foods, many of you may have heard my story the other day that I gave when I gave my other talk yesterday. But I got into raw foods briefly because of basically a life-threatening illness, and I was hospitalized, and the doctor said I wouldn't make it out alive. And basically what I found out was that in order to stay alive, I would have to pretty much eat all raw foods for the rest of my life, because I didn't want to end up in the hospital again. And so when you have that kind of motivation, you will make it happen wherever and whenever you are. So I had to make it fit and make it work into my life, and I found some unique and fun ways to make that happen while I'm traveling. So I've traveled throughout the United States to many of the states, not all of them, but I've been around the world. So places like Iceland, where you think, wow, how could you stay around Iceland? I mean, all they eat over there is, the majority of their diet is seafood.
Where's Bridget?
I've been to places like Fiji, where it's a little bit easier to be raw, in the tropics. One of my favorite places to visit. Hopefully I'll be going to the tropics later this year to maybe Hawaii or Puerto Rico, and maybe my friends in Florida. It's tropical down there near Miami. West Palm Beach. I've been to Cyprus, which is in the Mediterranean. In the Mediterranean, it's an island nation. It's really, really fun down there. I remember, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But over Europe, Canada, Costa Rica, and inside the U.S. So I've traveled mostly by plane in many instances, and sometimes I do just road trips by car. So, depending on where I'm going and how long I'm staying will dictate, what I'm going to be bringing with me. So probably the first thing that I'd like to talk about is the most important aspect of staying raw while you're traveling. And that's not what you're bringing with you. And that's not about bringing any food with you. It's not about anything like that. It's about changing our mindsets. And I remember from a really young age, my parents would take me and my brother, and we'd get in the car and we'd do a lot of road trips. We didn't fly too much when we were kids. I guess now we're the flying generation now, but I guess in earlier days people just didn't fly, and it was really a big deal when you did fly, because it was maybe it's once every several years you flew. Like, my mom still likes to see me off to this day at the airport, like it's some big major event, but I usually go out of town twice a month or something like that. So I haven't quite figured that out. But as children, we would take road trips a lot, and would always take a road trip. Well, my mom was born and raised in Hawaii, so then we'd also fly to Hawaii sometimes too, so that was a little bit different. And we would stay with our relatives in Hawaii most of the time, and then when we took a road trip, we would do what the average American does when they take a road trip. Unless you have an RV, of course. You would drive to wherever you're going, you'd get to where you're going, you'd stop, you'd hopefully have a motel or hotel pre-booked, you'd check in, and then you'd go to the restaurant downstairs and eat. Right?
Yeah.
How many people have done that?
A million times. Yeah.
A million times. So we're all conditioned to do this. I was conditioned from a very young age. Like, I saw my parents do it, so that's what I did. We learned how to walk because we saw our parents walk. So we emulate what we know, and we know is to go to motels and hotels, get a place, and eat, usually at the restaurant on site. And so I really had to break out of that reality, because that was the worst thing. Because I could do that if I was raw, but then I'm leaving my diet up to the discretion of the restaurant, and I eat 90 to 95% organic. So for me to just leave it up to the restaurant that's probably getting all conventional stuff, there's bad reactions when I eat some conventional foods. I'll break out in a rash, and I'll get itchy, and it's not fun, and I don't like doing that to myself, and I would rather just not eat and fast. And we could live without water for easily 6 hours, no problem. We do it every night when we go to sleep. We're just not conscious when we're doing that. But that being said, though, my dad is actually in Santa Rosa, California right now at a place called True North Health Center, and it's run by Dr. Alan Goldhammer. and he's basically he water fasts people. So my dad's on his 6th day of his water fast today, so he's only drinking distilled water for the last 6 days, and I probably should call in and check in with him later today. I visited him on Tuesday on his 3rd day, and he was doing pretty good. But he had lived on water 8 years ago for 30 days.
Wow.
On my recommendation, because he was having some, he has a benign tumor in his parathyroid. And so the fasting had helped him with that, but more than that, what the fasting did was basically they re-educated him about what he should be eating. So I mean, I've been telling him all these years, but finally when he fasted and he had a whole lot of free time to rest and relax, the doctors there told him the same thing I was telling him, and he listened to them and not me because he saw me in diapers, is what he said. But the point was that we can live on water, so we don't really need that much food, for a, I wouldn't go on a whole trip and fast the whole time. No, I'm not saying that. But maybe during your flight, you're on a couple-hour flight and, there's nothing good on the airplane to eat unless you bring it yourself. I think it's a really good time to fast and just relax and, and like that. But so anyways, mindset is the biggest thing to change. So we got to break out of the mindset of staying at a motel and eating at the restaurant. We could still stay at that motel or hotel. Don't get me wrong, I do that all the time. But what I do is I usually, right when I get into town, wherever my destination is, I've already researched on the internet places to go for my food. So in many instances, I try to schedule my trip around when the farmer's market is on in that town or city. So if the farmer's market, I know in Anaheim, I go down there every year for a Natural Products Expo, which is the trade show for the natural products industry. And that usually starts on a Thursday. And I know Thursday morning is the Anaheim farmer's market. So I arrive early in the morning, go to the Anaheim farmer's market, and then we check into the hotel. So I've gotten, all my food or a lot of my food for the most of the trip. And so, I try to eat out of farmers markets. That's not always possible. I remember going to somewhere in the Midwest where the farmers markets weren't that big. So the next best thing would then be to, maybe go to regular health food stores and buy organic foods. And after that, there's been some places like in Tennessee where they didn't have a whole lot of health food stores. Oh, I stopped at an information booth one time on a road trip in Tennessee, and I stopped and asked the lady if they had health food stores, and they say, "Oh yeah, we got them. There's this G&C at the local mall."
Yeah.
And I'm going, "Yeah, that's a health food. So they sell all these vitamins. They don't sell any food." But so changing the mindset. Shopping at the supermarkets, even if you have to, if that's the best you could do, that is the best you could do. And so to make that happen, you could travel with certain things, to prepare food like you're at home. So you're trying to live your home life while you're on the road, and nothing's really changed. We think it's changed because our surroundings are different, and then people kind of get a little bit freaked out because, oh man, I can't go to my local Whole Foods or my local farmer's market. Or for me, sometimes it used to be, I grow so much in my front yard. I just don't have that available when I'm traveling, and I kind of miss it. And on every trip, I really look forward to getting back home to eating in my front yard again. It's just so rewarding for me. So yeah, mindset is the biggest thing to change beyond anything else. So eat out of fruit trees. Here we're blessed with blackberry bushes, and there's other edible things, stinging nettles. You could just go and pick. So those would be the highest quality things you'd want to eat. Then next, as I said, farmers markets, health food stores, and last but not least, supermarkets. Some of the things that I eat at supermarkets, there's a list online. I think it's by the Environmental Working Group. And they put out a list of the 10, most pesticide residue containing foods and the 10 least pesticide residue containing foods that are conventional. So I'll generally eat out of the 10 least pesticide residue foods when I travel. And so some of those things maybe like greenhouse grown foods, so cucumbers, red bell peppers or colored bell peppers, cucumbers, I think I said that, they sometimes do hydroponic lettuce. So in conventional supermarkets, they may often have hydroponic lettuce. Some other things I'll eat are like maybe some mangoes, some papaya, are usually some of the things I eat. Also, one time I was actually in Anaheim and I needed a big bowl. And you can't travel with a big bowl because usually I travel with this bag right here, which is my carry-on bag, and then a backpack. So I don't like to check luggage, especially now that they're charging you to check your bag. So, I think Americans as a whole, they just overpack and they just bring too much stuff on their trips, and you really don't need that much stuff. I went to Europe for a week with this and my backpack, and you just need to maybe wash your clothes a bit more and Well, I don't have any sense of fashion either, so that helps. I think I brought 2 pairs of shoes. I brought my toe shoes and I brought another pair of shoes. But yeah, so scope. So I don't travel with big bowls. But what you could do is go to, in supermarkets they had a bakery, and the dome lids they put on the cakes to protect them from getting mushed. If you flip those upside right, it's a huge bowl. So I went to the bakery one time and asked for, one of the dome lids, and the lady just couldn't figure out why I wanted it, but I just said thank you. I brought it up. It was actually at an Albertsons supermarket. And actually in the Albertsons supermarket, actually even in the cake department, they had a really cool, long plastic knife. So I took a couple of those too for, in my bag to keep, because you're supposed to be able to take plastic knives on the airplane, but